Hello, we're Travis and Chantil of the Moto, and we are doing a long-term review of the LoneRider MotoTent.
We're here today in beautiful Bulgaria at MotoCamp, and we'd like to do a long-term review of the LoneRider MotoTent.
Yeah, so after the last 3 years, we've been able to spend about 240 nights wild camping in this tent. So I feel like we've got a pretty good idea of what it takes to put this thing through its paces. We've actually spent, we've been as far north as North Cape, Norway, where we spent a cold, chilly night in it right before we reached North Cape. And then we've been as far south as Tunisia in the deserts there around May.
Yeah.
Not super hot, but it was definitely hotter. Yeah. So I think we've got a full review of what exactly this tent is capable of, and we're going to show you now.
The biggest advantage of this tent is this large and comfortable space. You can cook, you can sit and relax, and you can even store your motorcycle in here if you like.
However, our motorcycles stay outside. We use the inside for ourselves.
Another advantage of this tent is it's fairly easy to set up. Travis and I can set it up within 4 to 5 minutes.
Another advantage of this tent is that if you needed to work on your motorcycle, you could. You would just drop this whole little section here where the sleeping area is, and the entire thing could be a garage that would give you plenty of room to actually work on it, especially if you had bad weather.
In our opinion, this tent has held up quite well.
You can see the quality of the tent. It's held up really nicely after almost 4 years of use. The aluminum poles have held up really nicely, and the high quality stakes are also a nice addition. We've never had a problem with the quality of the zippers.
They've never failed us.
After all these years, there's a little bit of fading on the edges, and the tie-down guidelines are faded as well. And most recently, in the last month or so, we've had problems with this waterproofing tape. It's been coming up, as you can see here.
This tent has held up remarkably well, even after a crazy, windy night in Spain.
Yeah, so what happened is we set up our tent, it was pretty calm, and then sometime that night the wind just picked up, and they picked up fierce. So we had about 30 knot winds, and I'm fairly certain a big gust of 30 plus knot winds came around at 2 in the morning and actually ripped a hole in the top. It broke one of these poles, and then it ripped some of the fabric here. So when the pole broke, it split right through here and put a big hole at the top of the tent. We've since then repaired it with tent repair tape. It also tore it here at the base, this big old long section. We've also repaired that as well. The interior portion of the tent also was ripped right here, and we've reinforced that as well with some tent repair tape.
Even though it was a pretty disastrous night.
It was, yeah. But it was nice because we reached out to MotoTent, and they offered to replace the aluminum pole for free, and even sent a couple replacement tent stakes that were flown who knows where during the windstorm. So grateful for MotoTent for having awesome customer service.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk disadvantages of the MotoTent. The biggest advantage is also its biggest disadvantage, the size. So because of its size, it takes a pretty big footprint, and sometimes that can be tricky to find a flat spot, especially in the forest or in rocky terrain where you can find a comfortable place to sleep. It's also not freestanding, so unlike a four-season expedition tent with actually more poles and a little more complexity, mind you also costs more, this tent is not freestanding. So you're going to need the tent stakes to actually support the tent. And sometimes that can be a challenge, especially in rocky terrain, to find a place to hammer those tent stakes down.
Yep, true. It would be nicer on the hot days to have more ventilation.
However, I think this has been fixed in a later revision of the MotoTent. They now have a screen that runs all the way from the top to the bottom. And sometimes the webbing can be a trip hazard, but that's easily fixed by just throwing a rug over it. So with all those advantages and disadvantages, Would we buy a MotoTent again?
Absolutely.
We actually plan on buying another one and using it for the next chapter of our motorcycle travels. More adventure awaits.